taifa, kwani kilimo ndicho huboresha maisha. Ukitaka kujua haya usipime kipimo, na ukikaa nasi basi utaboresha kilimo.
Marahaba kabisa, ni Jumamosi nyingine maridadi tunakutana katika kipindi Boresha Kilimo. Hiki ni kipindi ambacho kinaangazia nyanja mbalimbali za kilimo, teknolojia ibuka, hali kadhalika kilimo asili. Hii leo kama unavyoona, hili shamba kubwa ni la viazi vikuu ama ukipenda nduma. Ndo tunaangazia hii leo. Hujambo na karibu, mimi ni Laban Shaban.
Kilimo ni nguzo kubwa kwa ujenzi wa taifa.
Waswahili wanasema ukitaka kunukia manukato, kaa na muuza marashi, na ndo maana tumeingia kaunti ya Embu kukutana na mkulima wa nduma ama viazi vikuu Martin Mutweri. Makinika.
Martin Mutweri anafanya upanzi wa nduma aina ya dashin katika eneo bunge la Runyenjes, eneo la Ngoroire.
It has been a long journey, a big journey, which has taken me several years to get to where I am. So this journey began in 2014 as I was schooling. Initially, I wanted to venture into medicine. Yes, I enrolled into that course, but I felt that I was not doing the right thing. So I opted to do something which I had passionate, and that is farming. So in this farm, I normally concentrate on farming dashin, arrowroot. Dashin arrowroot or dashin variety, it came from South America so many years ago. Then the first time to be farmed in Africa, it was in Rwanda. And then from Rwanda, it came to Kenya. And I appreciate and I enjoy to be pioneer, the person who brought dashin arrowroot in Kenya.
Utafiti wa arkeolojia unaonesha kuwa mmea wa nduma ulianza kupandwa Amerika miaka 700 iliyopita. Miaka hiyo ilitumika kutibu sumu kwenye jeraha, mbali na kuwa chakula maeneo ya Karibia.
Before I started farming arrowroot, there are so many considerations which I considered. One, I needed a crop which will not require a lot of supervision, a crop which will not require a lot of capital. I did my research. I walked from one county to another, from one show to another. For example, I attended so many shows, the Agricultural Society of Kenya shows countrywide. I went to Nakuru, I went to Nairobi, I went to Mombasa, I went to Embu, I went to Meru. The main aim for attending all these shows, it was getting or interacting with several farmers and asking questions and finding which crop can I venture into which will require less capital and less supervision. And I settled in farming arrowroot. Initially, we have several types of arrowroot. One, we have the Roko type, what we call the Adoe, that's the Roko type. We have the Taru, and now we have the Dashin. So out of my research, I settled in farming the Dashin. Dashin, normally it's a very simple crop. The major one thing about the Dashin, it takes less time to grow. Once you plant, it will take 5 months, between 4 to 5 months to grow. Then you don't require chemicals or you don't require fertilizers to grow dashin. And number 2, it's the most sweetest variety. And it's the most liked variety in Africa at the moment.
Wakati mwafaka wa upanzi wa nduma ni kati ya mwezi Aprili na Mei, kipindi halisi ya mvua ya msimu wa joto. Lazima pia kuwe na unyevu na joto ya kutosha. Nduma inaweza kupandwa katika shamba lenye mimea mingine, kwa mfano minazi na pengine hata miembe. Kwa sababu hakuna mbegu ya kupanda mmea huu kama vile punje za nafaka, mahindi, maharage. Vipande vya nduma vya sentimita 4 hadi 7 hukatwa ambavyo vitazaa mazao 2 hadi 4 yenye kilo 15 hadi 20.
So before I started farming, there are some things which I had to take a precaution, or there were steps which I took. Number one, I did a soil test. That's to test the acidity level of the soil. So when you're starting to farm, you need first to do the soil test. Number two, you need to consider the space which you want to venture into. If maybe, for example, you want 1 acre, you need to put into consideration which capital do you have. For example, if you need 1 acre, that means with proper spacing, you need 30,000 seedlings. So one, you need first to prepare to clear the shamba, do the soil test, also know whether you have the source of water, and the last thing, you need to know whether you are getting, where you are getting the seedlings. So after doing your test of the soil and you get the pH is good for planting, the next thing you need to do is now you prepare the land. There are 2 ways which you can concentrate on. Number one, you can do what we call the furrows. The furrows are well suitable when you want to do irrigation method. So you have to dig furrows with a depth of 1 feet, with a width of 1 feet. Then from one furrow to another, you space using 1.5 feet. Then when it comes to planting, you do a spacing of 1 feet from one crop to another. Method number 2, for example, which I'm using in my farm, it's use of what we call mashimo kwa Kiswahili, or holes. So you dig a hole of 1 feet depth with a diameter of 30 centimeters. Then spacing from one hole to another, you space using also 20 centimeters. Generally, the main purpose I use those measurements is to control the size of the tuber. When you space a lot, you get very big tubers, which are not marketable when it comes to selling. But if you use less, you are able to get medium size, which is suitable for the market. So what I'm trying to mean, the more you space, the more you get the tubers, but it will not be marketable. But the medium size, it's more marketable compared to the bigger size. Kwa hii shamba, for example, nilisema kwa hii shamba tunatumia mashimo ama what we call the holes. Na maana ya hiyo kutumia hiyo mashimo ni juu kuna stream iko wapi? Iko hapa karibu. So ile maji kutoka kwa stream inaweza kupita chini kwa mchanga, inakuja hadi kwa ile nini? Mmea. Lakini mahali tunaenda kutoka hapa tunatumia furrows, ni mchanga tu ya kawaida. Hapo ndio tunatumia irrigation, tunapitishia maji kwa ile mtaro. Don't want to use a lot of chemicals. For example, when planting, I normally put manure. Then after 2 months of planting, I top up with another manure. So in this case, yes, there are some other farms which uses chemicals, but in my case, I don't advocate for chemicals. Toka ile mwezi ya kupanda, you need to come back at the 2nd month. That's the time you do your weeding, and then you also do manure. Then after that, maybe you just come once, just to check how the crop is doing and whether it's ready for harvesting. So it's less supervision, less manpower, less capital. As I've said, you will only do weeding once. Reason, unaona the canopy. Canopy, it's big, meaning there is no penetration of sun to the soil. Meaning if there is no penetration, the weeds will not be able to germinate. One of the reasons I ventured into Dashin arrowroot, it was, I didn't have so much time for coming to the shamba. So I needed a crop which will require less supervision. So for example, Dashin, it's less infected, less affected by insect. Actually, totally, this crop is not affected by any kind of insect or any kind of disease. Yes, that's the reason we don't use any chemicals. It's just we do it naturally up to the harvest period. From planting, that's when from time you prepare the furrows or you prepare the holes, you plant. It normally takes you 4 to 5 months for this crop to mature. But this will depend on how you feed this crop. If you put more manure, meaning the crop will mature faster. But if you are mean in putting mature, meaning it will take you more time for the crop to mature. Yes. Then on maturity period, yes, you need to keep records on the date of planting up to the date which you intend to plant. But the crop will keep showing different stages. For example, when the crop the leaves start changing colors, maybe to yellowish to brown, it indicates that that crop is almost ready for harvesting. So those are the ones of the signs. The leaves will keep changing to different color, yellowish, brown, meaning it's almost ready for harvesting. If you do proper spacing and you do proper manure, you'll be able to get the right size which is required by market. And then if you do the right the depth, sana sana unakuta wakati umechimba shimo kidogo sana ndio unapata tuber kidogo. But if you're able to do 1 feet downwards and you do the proper ratio ya manure, you'll be able to get the right size.
Unaendelea kutazama Boresha Kilimo, kipindi ambacho kinajikakamua kila leo kuhakikisha unajifunza mitindo mbalimbali ya kilimo, hasa kukumbatia kilimo asili. Hakikisha unasema nasi kwenye mitandao yote ya kijamii, manake tunathamini maoni yako. @KUTV Kenya, @Laban Shaban, hakikisha unaweka #Boresha Kilimo. Usiondoke hapo ulipo, tunarejea kwa muda usio mrefu.
Kilimo ni nguzo kubwa kwa ujenzi wa taifa.